Pulling ourselves up by the bootstraps, it's Friday at the Labor Network, and I'm Mark Harrison. WTF is next. A recent study by the United Nations warned that income inequality is destabilizing the world's democracies. Inequality is eroding trust in societies and giving rise to authoritarianism and nativism. Historically, those aren't recipes for success for anyone. Well, except perhaps the very rich who profit from chaos. The report calls for solutions like social safety nets, the redistribution of wealth, and the protection of workers' rights. But in the United States, the suggestion of those solutions for decades now has fallen on deaf ears in Washington. In fact, what we hear more often than not, what we have always heard, in fact, is take responsibility for yourself, find a way, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Really? Citing examples of a very few, many of the haves in our nation take pride in explaining how their grandfathers built a life by sweeping floors and putting themselves through night school. They like to say that if he could do it, anyone could do it. But if we probe a little deeper, we would find that what some people consider coming from nothing is quite different from what others view as coming from nothing. Growing up in a family that is abuse-free, drug-free, where there are two parents to share child care is a privilege, any way you slice it, money or not. Many people in my generation had a stay-at-home mother in their earliest years that gave a stable feeling to their homes. Hot meals in the morning and at night go a long way in allowing a child to think about a future, to consider options, to think about the impact of school and grades and college. But in far too many homes around our country, the loss of well-paying jobs with benefits and the transition to a life of hopelessness have led to terrible consequences. Do you know, in Ohio recently, there was a serious discussion about building a second morgue to house all the bodies being brought in due to deaths from opioid overdoses. That's not normal. No one is pulling themselves up by the bootstraps in a town that is that lost, a town that is that left behind, a town where no one over 40 can make sense out of the lives they currently have, the futures they currently face, compared to what once seemed possible. Things happen very quickly when the local plant shuts down. Local businesses fail, savings dry up. Property values decline, savings once slated for children's educations and a family week or two spent at the shore or in the mountains cease to exist. Parents withdraw, they divorce, turn to legal and illegal drugs in last efforts to make sense of it all. And many die shortened lives from abuse or obesity or both. And in the inner cities that haven't been gentrified to death, coming home to an insect and rat-infested apartment or a house when no one is home and the streets are a dangerous place, children aren't thinking about doing their homework. They're thinking about their empty stomachs and whether an exhausted family member will even come home tonight after working 2 or 3 minimum wage jobs just to feed them. The refrigerator is empty, the house is cold, and they need a coat. In this country, those of us who have severely underestimate the reality of the millions who don't. There are no bootstraps to be pulled. There is only survival. Every single day, over and over again, for far, far too many of us. I'm Mark Harrison. I'll see you again next week.